Welcome to Commander Central episode 135, and today we'll be looking at listener David Schlafer's Thrun, the Last Troll Voltron deck. I'm Dana.
I'm Max.
And I'm Chris.
Thrun. I'm excited about this because I like Thrun.
Yeah.
So when I talk about Thrun Voltron, this should be interesting.
Is Thrun in Recce?
He is, absolutely.
Okay, there we go.
Although he never does, like...
Anything.
I've regenerated him a couple times, but... he's one in the many,
Yeah, I mean,
the many faceless legends that come out, and
the next 4-mana legendary
Right.
green creature will probably get him.
yes,
Replace him if they're better.
yeah, he's probably. I mean, I like him, so you might say in the deck, but
He's a 4/4. I mean, he still has beats.
4/4 people can't remove him very easily. So I'm a fan of this card. I want to see the deck and talk about it. This is Friday. This is airing on Friday.
Vegas week, baby.
Vegas week, baby. So we're 5 days into just playing Commander like monsters.
And 2 more to go.
I'm curious how we're feeling right about now after 5 days of this in Vegas, in the desert, eating. Well, we're probably gonna eat okay. We usually actually go.
We eat very well there.
We're not eating like garbage like Mickey D's every day. So.
Although I'm going to try In-N-Out.
Oh yeah, okay.
Because I didn't go last year, and I've never been to one.
That's your Vegas
one
goal.
That's one of my to-dos this year in Vegas is to go to In-N-Out.
Okay.
I don't know why. I just want to.
And we have intentions to we're gonna do some swimming, so we'll get a little bit of exercise, and so maybe it won't be quite as bad as it could conceivably be.
I mean, I'm sure we have walked Fremont Street since we've gotten to Vegas. I mean, this is being pre-recorded.
Yeah. So yeah,
time machine.
We haven't really discussed that, I guess, and we'll quick mention a few of our plans, because we're staying, because we're going down early, obviously, we've mentioned that, and we're going to stay on Fremont Street for a couple days with a couple other people that are coming down there, so we will have people to play Commander with every night.
Yep.
We're trying to set up some time to record, and we'll probably have already done it with MTG Lexicon and with our Canadian friends at Friends.
That I will crush in the rotisserie draft.
F you, CCO. So
Honestly,
those
I
guys,
would be scared of you in the rotisserie draft, to be honest. I've been
think
watching your draft
100%,
picks.
I think Max has the best deck. Well, it's not
close.
the best deck. It's probably the most consistent deck. A lot of people are like, man, there's a lot of 9-drops in your deck. But I look at Max's and I'm like, no, his is pretty lean.
No, I have a lot of 5-drops.
Yeah, right.
I looked at my doing the draft. I'm like, oh, I have a lot of 5-drops. I should fix that. Find cheaper stuff.
But your stuff all synergizes really well. I'm looking forward to seeing that deck play out.
Can't wait to cast Armageddon.
Yeah, you dropped it at the very end. Nice
That was my last pick.
scumbag move.
Well, beats Nexus of Fate and Time Stretch.
That's true, yeah. I saw those. So we'll see how that plays out. But let's just talk about David Schlafer's Thrun the Last Troll deck. What do you guys say?
Let's do it.
All right.
So David, obviously, like always for these decks you play, we send out some questions. And here is what David came back with. So what's his meta like? He plays with a group of about 6 people from work and a couple close friends. All of us have been playing for many years, and others have just started playing recently, which is great. I like that type of diverse meta. The average power level of the meta is probably a casual/focused meta, so just above a precon level.
Yep.
He likes to build his decks more focused or optimized, so probably in that 7 to 8 range versus the 5 to 6 range. He definitely does pull punches when he comes up against those weaker decks just because he wants everybody to have fun. He'll not go for the combo piece and just let the game go on.
Yep.
That's definitely the best way to do it. Let's see here. He's actually working on a project, so a lot of good low-powered casual options that he can play versus these high-tuned-up decks that'll just wreck face.
Makes sense.
He likes to build half decks, so he just shuffles them together, and that's what he ends up with. I like that idea as well. I would probably lose all my cards if I did that personally. But so yeah, the meta is pretty much the casual format, and let's move on to what the goal of the deck is.
Okay. So the goal of this deck, it started out as a joke. One of our players can't stand mismatched lands and was giving someone else crap about the random white border lands in the deck. So he went all out for the next game and tried to bring the most diverse collection of lands he could find. Since he was going to troll the person, wanted to have an actual troll for the commander, so Thrun the Last Troll was a natural choice. And if you look at his deck list, he literally has no matching basic lands. There's like 30-some different unique forests in this deck.
Yes.
A dozen or so which are white border. So I will say this. I like matched basics, but if you are going to mismatch your basics, completely mismatch them and run one of each. I'm fine with that entirely if you want to do that.
Steer into the skid, I guess.
Absolutely, that's my thought there. He tried to go with the least pimp, worst version of any art wherever it was available. So again, I can respect that. It gets played unsleeved.
Yes, it does.
And there are foils in this deck.
To maximize the potential tilt. It's a Voltron deck, so the plan is to get some early ramp, bring Thrun out, and load them up with some buffs and attack. Rogue's Passage, protection via swords and trample enablers, and Shinnin of Life's Roar get through enemy blockers. There's some ramps, some draw, some recursion, some alternate creatures for Voltron strategies like Ronus and Nylea and Troll Aesthetic. So, what are the weaknesses of this deck, Chris?
So the biggest problem that this deck has is that he really doesn't know what he's doing when it comes to Voltron. The deck has always felt inconsistent, either not drawing enough buffs for Thrun, or drawing too many of those and not enough other interaction. He's not seeing as much early ramp as he'd like to get, so he can get thrown out before turn 4. He's sure that the equipment package could be improved. He basically just threw in whatever he could think of. Hopefully this doesn't come off as me wanting someone else to build the deck for me. I've just really had a tough time improving this once. Pardon me, I lost my track there. So he had a tough time improving this one since he's not very familiar with the archetype.
And what's his budget restrictions here, Max?
Budget restrictions, he says the main consideration for this deck is that he'd like to maintain the diversity in the borders and frames. So fine white border stuff is all I hear when I read that.
Yeah.
He doesn't want to put a lot of money into this deck since it's more of a joke deck or a trolley type deck. So if there is something, literally a troll deck, yes. If there is something expensive that would really help the deck out, he'll probably just buy a damaged version of it, which I think is awesome.
Yes. Okay, so let's take a look at what he's got going on here. We mentioned the land base. This is nice and simple because it's almost all forests, but there's only 33 of them. There's 33 lands here. They're mostly forest. There's a High Market, a Mosswort Bridge, a Nykthos, a Rogue's Passage, and a Tectonic Edge, and obviously the 3 different possible snow lands just because.
And some cycling lands.
Yeah, Tranquil Thicket is a cycling land as well. I think, is that the only one?
It is the only one, I believe.
Okay. What are your thoughts on this land base? Is 33 enough?
I think it's a little lean.
Yeah.
It's a little lean. He does have a few mana dorks in here, though. Arbor Elf, Dried Arbor, Elvish Mystic. So he's running a package of like 6 or 7 mana dorks as well. Those aren't lands, but they're also like not lands kind of either, like particularly early on. It's much easier to keep a 2-lander if you have an Arbor Elf and something else than it is to keep a 2-lander if you're not playing mana dorks.
Agreed.
I don't know if I'd be comfortable with 33 myself.
I'd say 35 minimum, just to be safe, so you're always going to have turn 4 Thrun.
Yeah, even those mana dorks, I think that makes it a lot easier. Although maybe the London Mulligan makes it
a little easier.
A little bit easier, possibly.
And it's on sleeve, so it's probably easier to shuffle when you're mulliganing too, compared
I guess,
to
maybe, yeah.
like double sleeve like we do. I know I hate mulliganing, so I'm just like,
Yeah, I think even just maybe going to 34 would be okay. That one extra maybe, but I like Chris's suggestion of 35.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't have a lot of monocolored decks, so I don't really know the rule, quote unquote. I mean, I just like 36 is where my starting number is.
I currently have 3 monocolor decks, and I think they're all running 35.
Okay.
But they're all relative, like, I guess the mono white one isn't low to the ground, but it's not bad either. It's only like 3.3 for Jeru in the average CMC. It's not terrible.
And they're also slower decks, like, overall. Like, you're not trying to aggro out your commander.
Yeah. And Reki's kind of fast, but Talrand, I'm in no hurry.
Right.
I want Talrand out before I do anything, so yeah, I think that's maybe 1 or 2 less than I would run, but I don't think it's bad. I will say this. I don't know if I love Tranquil Thicket in here. It always comes into play tap. I don't know if it's worth, like, you have no synergy with cycling. I just don't. I mean, yeah, sure, you draw it on turn 10 sometimes and turn it into something else, but then that's good. But there's also time to draw it on turn 3, and you're like, oh, man, I wanted a real land here. It's not coming into play tapped.
Yeah. I think it'd be nice to see something like Cathedral War in this deck, since it's a Voltron. It's an exalted
that's a good
deck.
swap.
It does come in tapped, so it might not be something you want to see in your opening hand, unless you want to make sure that is your first land, but it definitely does a lot of work in a Voltron deck.
I agree with that. Computer War, that's a good one. Other than that, like my general rule on cycling lands, I think you want to have some other interaction with them beyond just maybe this is good to cycle on turn 10 if I happen to draw it then. I don't think that's that's worth your land always coming into play tapped. He also has some mana doublers in here, or at least Vernal Bloom in particular, that cares about forests, and that's one less thing. Again, I don't think it's a huge deal, but I just think I would make that into a forest or something else, like you said, the Cathedral War.
Yeah.
Anything else here for lands?
It's a casual meta, so I wouldn't expect to see something like a Strip Mine or a Ghost Carter or anything like that, just because you don't want to strip mine someone's
there's a tech
gate.
There's a tech edge. You can deal with a crazy something, but it's not. You're not trying to slow anybody up with tech edge.
Yeah, it doesn't sound like there's a lot of lands like that in his meta to begin with.
And if I was playing this deck a little bit more seriously, I might run Hall of the Bandit Lord just to be able to, if you played Thrun on turn 6 or 7 or something, when you already have some equipment out, you can very easily then, because he has haste, you can then throw a Blackblade or Forge and something else on him that turn and swing out. I think that's useful, but in this environment, the way he's playing this unsleeved troll deck, I don't know if that's maybe worth the $20 that stupid card costs now, I think.
Yeah.
So, what's next? We look at the equipment here?
Sure.
15 different artifacts in this deck. And I already mentioned Blackblade Reforged. There's Emerald Medallion, which is a cost reducer in green. There's Hammer of Nazan, which gives Indestructible, and the creature gets +2/+0. We have a Loxodon Warhammer that gives Trample, and whenever the creature does damage, you gain that much life. There's Mind's Eye. Whenever an opponent draws a card, you may pay 1. If you do, you draw a card. There's O Naginata, which is an equipment out of Kamigawa block. It can be attached only to a creature with power 3 or more. Equip cost 2, but it gives the creature +3/+0 and Trample. There is Smuggler's Copter, which was banned in Standard for a while there. Soul Ring, obviously Stratus Scythe. You imprint. When it comes in battlefield, you search your library for a land card, exile it and shuffle your library, and the equipped creature gets +1/+1 for each land on the battlefield with the same name as the exiled card. So he's going to exile forest, and he's going to be running primarily forests, and if somebody else has some forests too, in a lot of cases, that's even going to be maybe a better Blackblade Reforged.
Yeah.
And the main Sword of Thing and Thing. So there's Sword of Fire and Ice, Light and Shadow, Sinnoh and Steel, War and Peace. There's a Sword of the Animist, ramp some lands, and an Umezawa's Jite.
Oh, yeah.
So that's a pretty solid equipment package there, although there's not much ramp aside from Soul Ring, but it's green. You usually ramp lands anyway. What do you guys think of the equipment Voltron package here in this deck?
I don't like Smuggler's Copter.
You don't have a ton of creatures in this deck, for one. So it probably gets a little bit challenging to crew it. But you can crew it with a Mana Dork. I don't not like it, but I don't think it's good.
Here's why I don't like it. There's not a lot of graveyard recursion in this deck.
Yes.
So discarding other creatures in case Thrun gets shut down and you can't recast him, or if he gets just completely useless, you have no way to get that stuff back out of your graveyard. In mono green deck, I get it. You need card draw. I think there are just better options out there.
Yes.
I think a card Chris has talked about in the past, like Lifecrafter's Bestiary, would be great in this deck. There are 16 other creatures in this deck, so he might be able to get that draw off that casting a creature, but just being able to scry at your upkeep gets you your card selection. It's not draw, but it's selection, which will help out a lot.
One card I want to see in this deck, since this is a troll deck, and it's a new card that we actually just talked about.
Upstairs,
Bloodthirsty Blade. Because I want to see you just troll your opponents and be like, equip that guy, he's goated, now he has to attack someone else.
Yeah, that's true, yeah. I don't know if I necessarily like the Kamigawa equipment, Naginata. So ignore the can only be attached to a creature with power 3 or more, because it's going to be on Thrun most of the time. It's giving it +3/+0 and Trample, and I assume that's mostly on here as a Trample enabler.
Yeah.
It is only 1 to cast. The one thing I was wondering if might not work better is Power Matrix. It's an artifact out of Mercadian Masks. So it's kind of a proto-equipment. You tap it, and you give target creature +1/+1 and Trample, and Flying, and First Strike. So you don't have to equip it onto Thrun. It doesn't cost anything to use there. You can buff opponent's creatures if you need to do something political with it. And the fact that it gives flying defensively in a deck that doesn't have many ways to protect itself from flyers, I think might be worth running in place of that, because you're not running things that like care about, like there are some equipment decks or Voltron decks that your commander cares if he's equipped. This isn't necessarily one of those decks.
Yeah.
So if it's not on your commander, you don't really care. I think the versatility of being able to actually make Thrun flying to block something crazy that might be coming in at you is maybe worthwhile there. And you can also use it on somebody else in a way that you can't with your equipment. If somebody else is like, I'm going to kill this dude, you're like, I'm going to give your dude flying if you swing on him. So I think there's some versatility there as well.
Yep. Another good replacement for Smuggler's Copter would be Mask of Memory.
Yeah.
It's an equipment, 2 to cast, 1 to equip. Whenever equipped creature deals combat damage to a player, you may draw 2 cards. If you do, discard a card. I like this better than Smuggler's Copter because you're getting 2 cards.
Yep.
And if you don't need that land you just drew, pitch it. Versus Smuggler's Copter, you are drawing a single card and discarding a card. At least you're still up a card with this.
I also think Fire Shrieker is a card I would run in this deck that gives your commander double strike. Because all of those swords have combat damage proc abilities.
Yep.
So you're doubling those. You're doubling that. If Black-Raid Reforged is down with 7 lands in play, Thrun is doing 11 damage to somebody, and 7's pretty early in the game. Fire Shrieker, you kill somebody with Thrun if you're doing double strike when he's got a Black Blade on or he's got on the Stratus Scythe. So there's a lot of double proc stuff here that makes that really, really useful. I would consider Fire Shrieker there.
Because that's what, 3 to cast, 3 to equip?
I think it's 2 to equip.
Okay.
I closed the tab after opening it up. I think it's 2 to equip.
Something similar to Fire Shrieker would be Grappling Hook. It's 4 to cast, 4 to equip. It gets double strike, but then you can actually essentially have something block it.
Right.
So again,
if you
can
want it to
get rid of a threat.
And there's also Inquisitor's Flail that doubles the damage your creature deals.
Yes.
It doubles what it takes to, but Thrun has regeneration. Yeah. The one thing that's what Inquisitor's Flail is if you happen to have Fire Shrieker out, they stack. Whereas if you have 2 things that deal double strike, they don't stack. So if I was running Inquisitor's Flail or running Fire Shrieker, I would probably consider Inquisitor's Flail as well, just because versus something else that goes double strike, just because the abilities work together if you happen to have both out. So those are the main things I was looking at there in the artifacts. I don't love Mind's Eye either.
No.
I still run it. I drew a ton of cards off it in my Zero deck the other day. I played it with a bunch of mana out and pass a turn, and the person's like, before then your turn, I'm going to brainstorm. And I'm like, so am I, but I'm not going to put 2 back. I'm just drawing 3. And so I wound up drawing 8 cards around the board from that Mind's Eye in mono white. That does happen. But there's also those times you cast it on turn 5 and you're like, well, I do nothing. That's my entire turn 5. I do nothing now. And then when it comes back to you, you're like, okay, well, I want to leave 3 mana up to draw 3 cards. That doesn't feel good either.
Right.
The one card I would suggest here, and that's a card that Max runs in Jermoka, and that's Soul's Majesty. And you draw a card for the power of target creature. The danger of Soul's Majesty is people can remove your creature in response to you casting it, except for it's Thrun, who has hexproof.
Right.
And in Max's deck, it's Jermoka. They can't cast spells on your turn. Solves the problem in the same way. But there is a Hunter's Prowess in here that gives Thrun trample and draws you cards equal to the damage it deals. But I would much rather run Soul's Majesty here over Mind's Eye. You're going to cast it and be done, and you're going to draw your worst case 4 cards, and probably many times draw 6 or 8, or if Black-Blade Reforged or Shadow Sentence on it, draw 14 for the same mana Mind's Eye cost.
Yep.
And be done with it, and not have to worry about leaving mana open or anything like that.
Yeah.
And it's the same exact casting cost. It's 5 mana versus 5 mana.
Yep. I have a few more suggestions for the artifacts.
Sure.
Masterwork of Ingenuity.
Just to copy one of the swords?
Just to copy an artifact, yep. The other 2 would be Sword of Vengeance. It gives your creature +2/+0 haste, first strike, vigilance, and trample, and it equips for 3.
And again, I'd probably run that over Onaganata if I had to choose between the 2 of them.
And finally, Hero's Blade. It's 2 to cast, 4 to equip, but whenever a legendary creature enters the battlefield under your control, you may attach Hero's Blade to it.
We'll just clip on the Thrun for free.
Right. So you play this before, you cast Thrun, boom.
Yep. Shall we look at the creatures next?
Sure.
16 of them. What are they here, Max?
We have an Arbor Elf, Dryad Arbor, Elvish Mystic, Findlehorn Elves, Llanowar Elves, Nylea, God of the Hunt, Orin Viper, Ronus the Indomitable, Runic Armasaur, Shinnin of Life's Roar, Steel Hellkite, Tireless Tracker, Troll Aesthetic, Uvenwald Tracker, Whisperer of the Wilds, and Yeva Nature's Herald.
And I guess we should quickly correct ourselves. Technically, I guess he would then have 34 lands and only 15 creatures because of Dried Arbor.
Yes.
True.
Kind of. So, there's a lot of mana dorks here. And there's things like Nylea that enable trample onto the commander, and Oran Viper draws you a card. Ronus is pretty good. What do you guys think of this creature package going on here?
There's a lot of mana dorks. We already talked about that.
Yep. Tireless Tracker's great.
Tireless Tracker is amazing in this deck. I don't really understand why Yeva is in here, besides being able to cast some of your ramp spells at flash speed. I think it's different if this was more of just a creature-based deck.
Sure.
Where you just pretty much get to cast your deck at flash speed. But I don't know how I would feel about casting a Llanowar Elves unless I need the mana the next turn to flash it in or something.
Yeva is good in my Recce deck with 26 green creatures or whatever it is.
Right.
It's good. It's not amazing in that deck. It's different if it's your commander, because you can build around doing flash stuff and tricky stuff. Here, It's just like a 4/4, and it's a 4/4 for 4. That's not bad.
And Internet, yes, I know I said you could cast sorceries at flash speed, but it does say creature cards, so that's my bad.
And it's actually green creatures, I'm pretty sure.
Green creature cards.
So it doesn't even hit the Steel Hellkite. Not that,
right.
That's probably not a huge deal, but... that's one I don't necessarily know, but I would, strongly be considering God Eternal Ronus there, because again, it's a doubler that will stack with your Fire Shrieker. Or I would just generally consider God Eternal Ronus just in general, because it's a really good card. I do like Runic Armasaur.
Yes.
It's just value. Like, you're going to draw cards, particularly in Commander.
Yeah. I think the creatures in this deck need to be toolboxy almost. They need to do something. Because Thrun is the focus. It's a Voltron deck. So your creatures need to be able to do something. Tireless Tracker does something.
Yeah.
The Armasaur does something.
Ronus
does something.
Nylea does.
But this is a deck where I think, Ewit would make sense. If it gets you back your equipment out of the graveyard, cool. You can't abuse it, and I know we kind of say that a lot, is you need to be able to abuse it or use it more than once, but it's something that's going to help him win the game more frequently.
Well, in talking about lands, I didn't mention it there because I just kind of was thinking of it now when you said recur things, but Tranquil Thicket doesn't do much, but Buried Ruin, there's situations where sacrificing the Buried Ruin to get back one of your swords, that the person who was playing the two colors used their only spell that they had to get rid of, and if you can bring that back to the top of your library and draw it and re-equip Thrun, they're done. So maybe that's the kind of thing I would that card, there are situations when Buried Ruin wins you a game, kind of, and I don't think there's many situations where Tranquil Thicket does.
Yeah.
So that's a good call on the recursion with Eternal Witness. I would look at maybe that there in lands as well.
Some other ones that I think would be good in this deck would be, for the utility or toolbox creatures, would be Silent Arbiter. You only want to be attacking with one creature, and you don't want to be facing down a Token Storm the next turn.
Yeah. Right. If you're only attacking with one creature, then that seems like everyone else should be playing the same way.
And only one creature can block Thrun. So it's a great way to get through, or, if you have a sword on it, just nothing blocks.
Yep. I would consider, he mentioned budget, I guess, and birds is what, $10 for Birds of Paradise?
We'll look it up because
Last I checked, it was roughly $10, which means it's probably 20.
It's like 6.
Okay.
6 to 8.
That's one I would maybe consider over one of the other elves.
Just for the evasion?
Just for and the ability to just chump block. There's enough times being able to chump block that dragon will buy you a turn when your Arbor Elf can't. And beyond that, they're the same creature. The ability to chump block a giant flying creature, a Meryl Age token, versus the ability to actually hit somebody with your Arbor Elf that you're probably never, ever going to equip. If you happen to have a Birds of Paradise in his binder or saw a cheap, heavily played one, so it's this unsleeved deck that you could get for $3, I would definitely probably swap one of those mana dorks out for the birds. Thrun Voltron, might as well put in a, I guess you can't run, I just forgot its name, the Exalted Mana Dork. That's
Noble Hire?
Noble Hire.
Yeah.
But you can run it here. And it's $1 gazillion, so. I wasn't really serious about that. But I do like Troll of Static as kind of a backup to Thrun.
Yes.
Is there anything else creature-wise? I would mention God Eternal Roan, I think would be solid here.
Yeah. No, I don't think so. I think, Thrun's plan A.
Yeah.
And Thrun's probably plan B.
Yeah.
And the rest of this is plan C.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think this is just all support for Thrun is all that it really is.
Yeah.
But you can afford to lean into that when your commander has hexproof, and is pretty efficient to cast as well in a green deck where you can get ramp out.
I mean, something like Dosin might be good in this deck.
To protect yourself on your swings.
To protect yourself on your turn. Sure. Or either like Oracle Modiah or Corsair Krufix just to help get some lands out a little faster, but they might just be too slow.
Yeah.
Overall.
How about the instant speed spells here, Chris? What do we got?
We have 8 instants. We have Beast Within, Berserk, Evolution Charm, Heroic Intervention, Hunter's Insight, Noxious Revival, Primal Bellow, and Provoke.
Berserk is just great in a Thrun deck because you just regenerate.
That's just amazing.
I mean, not that Berserk isn't great in any deck you could have said that cares about combat, because Berserk, I think, is, if anything, maybe a kind of underplayed card. But this is a perfect place for it because you're just going to regenerate Thrun and you don't care. Beast Within, obviously, amazing removal if you can run it. What do you think of Evolution Charm?
I was just reading that right now. So you go for, I wonder if it's meant for, it could be ramp, could be return. Target creature gains flying. I think all the modes are relevant.
They're great, I think, in this deck.
Yeah, I don't like Evolution Charm, but I kind of like it in this deck.
Mm-hmm. I mean, you can search your library for a basic land and reveal it and put it into your hand. You can return target creature card from your graveyard to your hand, or target creature gains flying.
Yep. Heroic Intervention, trash card, I think we all agree.
Yep.
How much is it? $13 now for that card.
Ugh.
Oh my God.
Yay, I have a playset.
Listen, it's amazing. So that's just what it is. Noxious Revival, put target card from a graveyard on top of its owner's library, and you can cast it for 2 life instead of the 1 green.
And at instant speed.
And the ability to flex with that is really nice, depending on your meta. You have the ability to, make it be a bad regrowth and go to the top of your library. But the real nice thing about it is when you see somebody else do something like that person just vamp tutored and they have Sanguine Bond out, and I have a feeling they just went and got the other half of that combo. I'm just going to put that land in their graveyard on top of their library to make them wait an extra turn or something. That's legit. That happens.
Combo.
Right. That's a legit use of that card.
Yeah, it is.
I don't run it anywhere, but I think it's a pretty solid inclusion just for the flexibility of doing both those 2 things.
Yep.
Primal Bellow, target creature gets +1/+1 to end a turn for each forest you control. So yeah, you're just going to kill somebody pretty often with that.
Yeah.
For 1 single mana at instant speed. And Provoke, untap target creature you don't control. That creature blocks this turn if able, and to draw a card.
He's got a few of those effects in here, and I like that because I was wondering, there's not a whole lot of removal. Granted, green doesn't have a whole lot of removal.
Right.
But he's got those effects like that where it's like, well, Thrun's going to be huge. I'm just going to swing and I'm going to force that thing to, block and destroy it.
Yeah, that's an interesting instant speed, so it's like a surprise. And he seems to be running that kind of thing instead of like a fog effect.
Yeah.
Constant Mists, again, no longer a cheap card that I used to find in bulk all the time. It's like a $6 card, I think. Obviously, Constant Mist would be disgusting in any green deck, but I run it in 1 deck now. I run it in my Landfall deck because make a lot of lands. I can recur them. It fits the theme of that deck. The reality is, if you could put Constant Mists in every single deck that could run it, and you would not be it would be great.
Yeah.
So I mean,
even if you don't flash it back or buy it back.
The worst case scenario is that you've paid 1 more for a fog.
Yep.
If you reuse it 1 time, it's amazing, and you can oftentimes reuse it 3 or 4 times. So it's you could easily change that out, but I do actually like Provoke here as well, particularly with Thrun's regeneration. You're really leaning into using those abilities. The one thing I was wondering about maybe in that slot is Benefactor's Draft. That was in Commander, I think, last year. It untaps all creatures, not just your creatures, and it draws you a card.
Okay.
So it does a similar thing, but it also draws you a card for every creature your opponents control that block. So you can use it for the same effect here. You can use it to untap Thrun, and it draws him a card and does all that. But there's also the opportunity where someone's swinging at your opponent with like 3 creatures, and you can use it as a draw, like untap. I'm like, okay, well, because it's a win-win for you. You get your number 1, you get your draw baked into it.
Yep.
And then you're like, well, stuff's either going to die here, or it's not going to. Whatever, I'm fine. But like your opponent's probably going to be like, man, I might as well block. They're not going to take damage just to spite you from drawing cards, probably.
Especially that player who goes down to 3 life repeatedly every game.
Yep.
It's like, untap all your creatures. You need to block, right?
But there's also going to be those situations where like someone swings at somebody with, their 2 or 3 big creatures, and the person has, 6 or 7 or 8 tapped tokens they used for something, and you're like, have all your tokens back, my friend.
Right.
And they're like, well, I can't afford to not block, so I'm going to block with 7 of these. You're going to draw 7 cards off it.
Yeah.
So I think it's roughly the same downside is provoked with a higher upside.
Much, yeah.
Higher floor. So that would be one I would consider there. 15 sorceries here. What are they, Max?
We have All is Dust, Gaia's Blessing, Green Sun Zenith, Harmonize, Hunter's Prowess, Life's Legacy, Nature's Lore, Nature's Way, Overwhelming Stampede, Pier's Whim, Prey Upon, Regrowth, Rishkar's Expertise, Skyshroud Claim, and Triumph of the Hordes.
So All is Dust is about your only board wipe option in green, unless you're going to get to weird stuff like Wave of Vitriol
and
or
Great Aurora and stuff like that.
And I don't think this is the kind of deck that wants either of those necessarily. No. So you have All is Dust as your backup plan. The downside of that is it's a sacrifice, so Thrun can't fight through it. But he doesn't have a choice if you're wanting a board wiping. I guess Nev's Disc, but they can see it coming because.
But Nev's Disc also destroys all your equipment and
right.
everything
This
else.
doesn't.
This doesn't. Yeah. And you have Gaia's Blessing, which is in a sorcery. Target player shuffles up to 3 cards from their graveyard into their library, and you draw a card. And when it's put into your graveyard from your library, shuffle
Your graveyard,
into your library. Yeah.
I wish it was an instant.
Yeah.
Because then it'd be great for like a graveyard hate trick.
I wonder if this is a meta call, if there's enough, if there's weird mill stuff or things going on there that wants to recur.
Yeah, I mean, who knows?
I think it's just a card that he jammed in there.
Because he had it.
Could be.
Because it's in foil, just to shuffle in front of people, unsleeved.
Yeah, could be. I don't love it. I would probably just run something I'd rather just run a Recollect and get a couple cards back than I think shuffle. But Green Sun Zenith, if the worst thing you ever do with Green Sun Zenith is go grab Bride Arbor on turn 1, you're probably okay.
Yep.
And the ability, this is another reason, the creature tutors are maybe the reason you would run God Eternal Ronus, just so you can go get that kill spell, but he's playing kind of casually.
Yep.
I'm guessing it's just a ramp spell. It's for the most time to go grab Bride Arbor.
Or one of his Mana Dorks.
Or Mana Dork, something for 2, yeah. Harmonize, draw 3 in green. That's pretty solid. We mentioned Hunter's Prowess is a perfect deck for it.
Yep.
Hunter's Insight, I guess we didn't mention, is an instant speed spell that does a similar thing, but it doesn't give trample. I guess Thrun not having evasion like Dromoka does maybe makes it not as good as it would be in that deck.
Yeah, but it's also if you have a couple of pieces of equipment on that give it double strike, or especially double strike because it's when it hits the player or planeswalker, so you're just going to draw a bunch of cards.
But whereas Hunter's Prowess, you don't even need to care about the equipment. Thrun's drawing you 7 cards with that.
Right.
I guess you'll soak some trample damage up, but worst case, but there's many times on turn 5 that's amazing.
Yeah.
Life's Legacy, sacrifice a creature to draw cards equal to its power. If someone's in a board, if you're gonna All is Dust or something, I like Life's Legacy in some decks. I don't know if there's enough big beater creatures here necessarily.
It's if you have enough mana to sack Thrun, draw 10 cards because he has 6 swords on him.
That's true. He is wearing a lot of equipment. That's a good point.
And then you still have all the mana to just recast him again right away.
I was thinking in terms of there being multiple other targets but maybe Thrun's enough if you're going to equip him up and then
worst
sack him,
case,
draw a pile of cards.
Worst case, you're sacking Thrun and drawing 4 cards.
Yeah.
For 2 mana.
Yeah.
That seems fine.
And one thing nice about this one, it's the sacrifice is part of the cost. So people can't respond to it by destroying Thrun.
Right.
And if you happen to be wearing the sword that gives you pro-green, that gets around that as well. Nature's Lore is just a really good ramp spell. Nature's Way, target creature you control gains vigilance and trample. To end a turn, it deals damage equal to its power to target creature you don't control.
Fight!
There's a fight, and it's another trample enabler for Thrun.
Yes.
Overwhelming Stampede.
Great card.
I mean, again, the worst case scenario is you're giving Thrun, making him an 8/8 and trample, and that's going to be rare. It's almost always going to be he becomes a, 17/17 or something dog.
Enough to kill someone with one swing.
Pierce Whim.
Trash card.
Trash card indeed. No, I mean,
it's good.
It's really good. We see it a lot in our shop now. I'm not sure if that's just because we've started playing, or if maybe it's being played everywhere now. It is $2 now.
Yeah.
That always feels worth it. Prey Upon is a fight effect. Target creature you control fights target creature you don't control.
See, I'm really liking all these fight effects.
Yeah, this is a good deck for it.
Because Thrun has regeneration. You can just be like, oh, fight that guy. If we kill each other, guess what? I just go regenerate.
I wonder if then, given, I'm going to jump backwards here. I wonder if given the amount of fight effects and Thrun's regeneration, it wouldn't be worth running Grthama, the All-Devouring, the mythic that was in Battle Bond, where when it gets put in the graveyard, you draw cards equal to the damage that was dealt.
The big worm?
Yes, because many times Thrun's going to be, like we said, giant from all the swords and everything. Even if he doesn't, he may have pro-green, so he'll take no damage from Grthama anyway.
Right.
But worst case, you regenerate him and then draw the, dozen cards from the damage you dealt to Grthama.
Yep.
So that's one I would maybe consider,
Grthama's like $1.
Yeah.
Show your blue mages up and be like, what's wrong, guys?
Right.
I'm in green, drawing more cards than you.
Mr. 17, how you guys doing? And again, they can't respond to it because Thrun has hexproof.
Yep.
Right.
So, Rishkar's Expertise,
Card's good.
Yeah. Scotch-Hard Claim and Triumph for the Hordes. Anything else that you would add here for sorceries in particular?
I mean, I would just say Seasons Past.
Isn't that one more recursion effect?
Just looking at his artifacts alone, he can get 4 or 5 different things back. If a 1, 2, 3, a 4, right there. He has a couple of 5-drop enchantments. On the off chance Thrun gets put in the graveyard and you don't move him to the zone, you can get Thrun back. I think it's a good way to recur something like Berserk or Beast Within if you need a removal spell back or anything.
Yeah.
And it gets you your lands back in case you ever up the mana base and they destroy your Nykthos or something.
Yeah, it's almost never a bad card here.
And it gets shuffled back into your library.
Yeah.
Or placed on the bottom.
Which is useful.
Yes.
All right. What do we have here next? We just did sorceries.
Planeswalker?
Garruk Primal Hunter.
Getting reprinted.
Yeah. I feel like, I ran this in my Recce deck for a while. I no longer do, not because it wasn't good, I just replaced it with something else. But so he was at 6 mana, -3. I don't know if I ever didn't use his -3. I cast him for his, 5 mana. I would cast him for his 5, immediately -3 to kill him, and draw cards equal to the greatest power among creatures you control.
Yep. So worst case, Thrun's out. That's 5 mana, draw 4.
Worst case, you're paying 1 more for a Harmonize to draw 1 more.
Yep.
Yeah. And that's probably the worst case scenario if Thrun isn't equipped. If Thrun is equipped, you just draw 10 or 12 or 16 or whatever it is.
Yeah.
That's a great card here. That's it.
I have a suggestion.
Yes.
Nissa Vital Force.
The mana doubling Nissa?
Nope, this is the +1, a land becomes a 5/5, and then your emblem at 6 is whenever you play a land, draw a card.
So it protects itself.
It protects itself, and then if you can alter, you're drawing cards just by playing the game.
And it's pretty easy to draw her, particularly when you have a regenerating commander.
Right.
So, yeah, that's a good call.
And it's pretty cheap.
Yes, it is.
It's $3.
How about the enchantments here?
We have 11 of these bad boys in this deck. We got Abundance, Bear Umbra, Blanchwood Armor, Greater Good, Instill Energy, Rancor, Snake Umbra, Song of the Dryad, Sylvan Library,
Library. Right next to the Strongberry.
Sylvan Library, Tranquil Grove, and Vernal Bloom.
So Abundance is just generally a useful card, and it combos really, really nicely with Sylvan Library because it just lets you draw 3 for no additional life loss.
Yep.
But worst case scenario, the ability to just say, I don't need more lands. I'm saying non-land.
Yeah.
And that's pretty useful a lot of times in green, particularly once you get to that turn 6 or 7. And if you've drawn a fistful of cards from something else, you're like, I'm just fine for playing lands. I've got 3 or 4 in my hand because of this thing. I just need to never draw one again. Bear Umbra, untap your lands.
On attack.
On attack.
Perfect.
Yeah. And it protects Thrun from that all is dust.
Yep.
So That's a good one here. Blanchwood Armor.
No, it does not.
It wouldn't because...
It's a sacrifice.
Oh, because it...
Because it's not actually getting
It's not
destroyed.
doing damage.
Oh, yeah,
you're just
you're right,
sacrificing.
you're right.
They both would go.
Yep. You were correct. Blanchwood Armor.
Great.
That's a nice old school find, too. Enchanted creature gets +1/+1 for each forest you control. So it's basically an aura version of Blackblade Reforged for the most part.
Yep, or that instant, the Primal Bellow.
Yep. Greater Good. I mean...
Draw cards.
I think that's all. You almost have to run that in a Voltron deck if you're playing green.
Man, yeah.
Just
How
for
big they are.
protection.
Particularly because it's instant speed and you don't need mana to activate it. Whenever somebody else does something you don't want, like you're like, oh, I was not ready for this, or I was tapped out because of this, and Thrun's going to die anyway, I might as well draw my worst case 4 and pitch 3.
Yep.
Like the worst case scenario is still pretty good if it's in response to something that you can't stop. And the best case scenario is, well, and this is going to happen next turn. I need to just sacrifice Thrun and draw 12 and pitch 3. And that's going to happen a lot too.
Yep.
And Still Energy's a nice card here. I like seeing that. Enchanted creature is unaffected by summoning sickness, so basically gives you haste on a single creature. But you can also untap a creature.
Vigilance.
Yep. For 1 mana. That's pretty good. I'll keep that Thrun back to block as well. Rancor. I mean, it's just Rancor.
Rancor.
It's always
Just
good.
another way to give trample.
Snake Umbra is a card draw 1/1. This one I'm not sure about.
I mean, it's an Umbra, so it's going to protect it from board wipes.
Sure.
The +1/+1 isn't great, but when it deals damage to an opponent, draw a card. So it's a green card draw spell. I like it in this deck.
What's the Umbra that gives reach?
Snake Umbra. No,
Is this-
Spider Armor
Spider.
gives all your creatures +0/+2 in reach.
Spider Silk Armor.
Is that...
Yeah, it's not an aura, it's an
Just
enchantment.
Because I thought there was an Umbra that gave reach, because that would be the one that I would really want
I think
over
there's
Snake
a
Umbra.
Spider Umbra, I think.
Let's look.
There. Spider Umbra. 1 green. Gets +1/+1 and has reach.
There you go.
And has totem armor.
The one thing that I think I might, and I guess I should have mentioned this under instance, that I might replace that aura with is, I think Aspect to Hydra would be good in this deck as well. It's a single green for an instant. Target creature gets +X until end of turn, where X is your devotion to green.
Ooh.
So in this deck, again, that's going to be almost like a Blanchwood Armor or the instant speed for each forest you control kind of thing, where your devotion to green's pretty frequently going to be 6, 8, 10, if not more than that.
Yeah, because
Yeah.
green just puts permanence on the battlefield. That's what it does.
And it's target creature, so you have the option of somebody, if one of your opponents is at 8 or 9 and someone's swinging at them with like a 3/3 or something,
Die!
and they're gonna I'll just take it, I'll be fine. And you can you have that option. And that
Double strike!
That happens sometimes. right.
That was the greatest game I've played in. I attack you. Give it double strike. I attack you. Give it double strike.
I attack you. No double strike.
There's Song of the Dryads here that solves a lot of problems in green. We mentioned Sylvan Library. Vernal Bloom, all forests, not just yours, but I think in this deck where you're playing almost all forests,
Yeah.
it's so much. I never
At 4
regretted it.
mana, it's really
Yeah,
good.
and I never regretted in my Recce deck. I mean, I would if I was playing against this deck, but. And then there's Tranquil Grove, 1 green, destroy all other enchantments.
I actually like this card.
I think it's a Rattlesnake card, or it's just he had it.
Could be.
Wouldn't you just run that instant speed one that you've been running?
Back to Nature?
Back to Nature. If you really are worrying about destroying enchantments.
Yeah,
Same mana
I
cost.
like
right?
this one because this one just sticks around. It's like, destroy them all. Oh, you play another one? Destroy that one.
It does. It does stick around, but it also hits your stuff. I don't know. I'm torn. Back to Nature just deals with it at instant speed, so you can solve a problem if you need. Although this you can use at instant speed too if it's already out, I guess.
Yeah. I mean, this is 5 mana to use, technically.
Yeah.
2 to cast, 3 to use it. I think I'd rather either run Back to Nature or just find a better
Or
enchantment,
there's Calming Verse that, if your lands are all tapped, destroy all enchantments that you don't control.
which is pretty easy to do in EDH because
Yeah.
there's no mana burn anymore.
And it's sorcery speed. But this is 2 to cast it at least. I don't think it's bad, but I think I would like you said, I would prefer Back to Nature or maybe Calming Verse instead, but I don't think it's a bad card. The one thing I would maybe also look for here, I don't know what I would replace, is Lignify. It's just another Song of the Dryads, the fact that it's only for creatures. But there's been a ton of games when I've hit someone's Atali Primal Hunger with Lignify, and they're like, oh well, I'm just done. Now, well, let's hope I draw a Chaos Warp in the next 8 turns because I'm not playing Magic right now. So that's one I would maybe think about here. But anything else for enchantments, guys?
I don't think so.
So, all told, what do you guys think of this deck? do you think of Thrun?
I like it. I like the split between enchantments and artifacts.
Yeah.
And the big thing I've noticed, that the more and more I keep looking at this, he has no swords that give pro green. So he can suit up with green enchantments, which I don't know if that's something that he saw or if it's just something that kind of randomly happened, but I do like that.
Well, I was wondering if there was a reason why a couple swords were missing, and that would make sense why that would be the case. It also then lets him cast those instant speed spells, the instant buffs and stuff on there too.
Yep.
I agree. I like the mix of 3 different things. There's the instant speed buffs, and there's the aura buffs, and there's the artifact buffs.
Yeah, you don't know which route's going to come flying at you, and you just got to be careful.
It's a pretty lean deck too, 2.77 CMC. That's pretty tight.
Very tight.
So I like this deck a lot. I think he mentioned it being a troll deck, but like this wins. There's no way this deck doesn't win games.
Oh, it has to.
So I like it, and I just want to say thank you very much for sharing this deck with us. Thrun mono green. That's cool.
It's very cool.
So David Schlafer, thank you very much for supporting us on Patreon. We do appreciate that. If anybody else wanted to get a deck tech and support us on Patreon, Max, how would they do that?
Head over to patreon.com and search CMDR Central and check out our reward tiers.
Buy Max pants. You can help pick what kind of pants
Apparently,
Max wears.
that's a thing now,
Is a new thing. Yeah.
I got to get on this conversation.
I was told I have to wear pants to the rotisserie draft.
Okay.
Which I got everybody to agree shorts are acceptable.
All right, that's fine.
Because I'm not bringing pants to Vegas.
Yeah, I don't think I am either. I was checking the weather. I'm like, it's supposed to be
110.
112, 110, 111, 112. I'm like, nope, I'm not wearing pants.
I think you said to me, he goes, well, Max, good news. There's not a day that it's going to be over 115. I said, well, then cancel the trip. It's not hot enough.
Because last year it was like 115, 118-ish.
Yep.
So we were getting a reprieve. Okay, our podcast theme is Retro Future Dirty by Kevin MacLeod, licensed via Creative Commons. Our show is edited by Ken Peddle. You can find him on Twitter at LOAD3R. You can find me on Twitter at Dana Roach. You can find Max at CMDR_Max. You can find Chris at YSquishy1. We'll be back next Monday with our regular scheduled show. Until then, I'm Dana.
I'm Max.
And I'm Chris.